Hey, easy now, easy.
Hey, sorry, we're here.
We're live.
Oh, we're live. Sorry about that. No, we weren't fighting just now. No, we weren't fighting just now.
Not.
No. Welcome to A Valid Answer with Scott and Marshall.
We're best friends.
We I don't know about best friends, but
Well, my fingers are crossed.
Gotcha. So, my name is Scott, and this is Marshall. He is a socialist, liberal atheist, and I happen to be a capitalist conservative pastor. And we have a podcast together where we normally don't fight. Actually, we haven't actually.
Well, it gets pretty.
It gets pretty heated sometimes. It just depends on the topic and the question being asked and whether or not we're being challenged, right? Or if someone's challenging us. I think there's a challenge today, right? What's your challenge today?
I want to know how you, as a Christian, can still support Donald Trump.
How can I, as a Christian, support Donald Trump? Okay, first off, I think we need to define the word support. I think that'll be the beginning of
the debate will turn on how we define that word.
No, if you missed it though, going back last night, we actually have a podcast on Sunday nights as well at 5:00. We had one last night, and you can catch up on that and follow us, because here's what we do: we love to get together and have this kind of discussion. What kind of discussion? Any type of discussion to where we're face to face talking about things that would normally come between us, things that we would disagree on, things that you would normally get on your computer online and say, that person's an idiot, that person's dumb, they don't know what they're talking about, they're just evil and they want to kill off other people, and I know I'm right, and those keyboard warriors out there. Anything that would be that kind of discussion, it has a completely different effect when suddenly you're face to face and you're friends. Mm-hmm. Okay, Marshall and I have been friends. For those of you who have not seen our show, Marshall and I have been friends for 20-some years, since high school, and a little bit in college. We went to BC together, Bakersfield College, by the way. We're located in Bakersfield, in case you don't know. I don't know if you know.
Well, we are on Kerncast.
We are on Kerncast, yeah. So we're homegrown, local homegrown boys. Lived
He's
here.
Loco.
I'm local. I'm a local. Born and raised here my whole life. I'm assuming you are too. Yes, that's what I thought too. So when two friends get together and disagree as vehemently as a socialist, liberal, atheist would with a capitalist, conservative pastor,
right?
How do you come to terms with that? What do we do? Why do we have this podcast?
Well, I find that if we talk about ideas and the reasons why we believe sort of our justifications, if we give each other equal time, if we treat each other with respect, we can actually talk about differences and gain a greater understanding and appreciation for the other side. Because one of the things that I've learned, Scott, is you are not a complete blooming idiot.
No. Thank you.
Fingers crossed.
Oh, come on. What I've learned is that you are not actually evil. As an atheist, you're not an evil person.
Exactly.
I didn't really learn that. We kind of already knew that. That's how this came about, because we respected each other beforehand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually possible to sit down and literally clash on ideas, and treat
we
each other
have
with respect.
We have. This is literally like our 35th or 36th episode. Go back and find all of our podcasts and stuff. And there's been some times where
we even had boxing gloves in here.
Yeah, and a lot of times I'm producing it today because it's a school day, but normally my sons are helping produce the Sundays. And there's been a few times where we've gone home and my sons were like, I thought you guys were I thought your friendship was over. And then you guys finished the show like, hey, that was a great show, guys, thanks. I mean, he's like, what? That can happen? Yeah, you can have vehement disagreements and still not disrespect the other. I still respect you, Marshall. I believe that you respect me as well. Yes. And so that's what we're here for. And that's actually part of, you asked me that question about how can I support Trump. Part of the answer is in why we do this, which is if you just think the other person is evil, dumb, racist, just as soon as you put that label on someone, you no longer have to listen to them. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you put that label on someone, you've closed off any intellectual communication that you could have with that person or about that person. And it's a logical fallacy, correct? Called ad hominem, right? Which is basically,
you're attacking the person themselves rather than the ideas.
Rather than the idea of the argument, or even not even allowing yourself to listen to the idea or listen to the argument simply because of where the argument's coming from. When you find yourself in that position, when you find yourself in the position that the only way you can be right is if your opponent is evil, then you really don't
That's a
have
red
an argument.
flag, yeah.
That's a red flag. You really don't have an argument. The only you're not coming to that conclusion logically with evidence. You're simply saying, well, look where their side's coming from. Of course they're wrong. And it's easy to do that, again, on the keyboard across the internet with someone that you don't know. But when I know that Marshall's not evil, and I know that he is a good friend of mine, we bring our families to each other's houses, and we hang out. I know that he's not a bad person. He's not evil. I now have to listen to him. And suddenly I find myself
with my ideas.
What's that?
And engage with
And
my
engage
ideas.
with your ideas on the level of the ideas, and then we can pick apart the ideas and not necessarily pick apart each other.
Mm-hmm. And one of the big goals of A Valid Answer is to sort of elevate the conversation here in our own community.
Yeah.
A lot of us are very accustomed to talking about the sports scores or the weather. Oh my gosh, it rained, or it's so hot. We're always talking about these things. We also talk
or even the simple political stuff that's just on the surface.
Personalities.
Yes.
And it's almost like gossip. And look, I love Currentcast, and I love the different shows on Currentcast. I do tune into them, but sometimes, for me personally, it's a lot of talk about individual personalities, and it's a lot of what I call straw man argumentation, which is a logical fallacy. Where
you're going to hear that term a lot on our show, logical fallacy. We catch each other on that.
Setting up the other side's arguments and then calling the other side stupid for believing this. How can liberals believe this? Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. Liberals are so dumb. They don't know how economics works. Well, actually, a lot of them do. But it's a lot of straw man argumentation. We want to kind of elevate the conversation, take it to the next level, talk about the ideas more than the personalities. But because this is our first show on a Monday, and a lot of you are out there hearing us for the first time,
welcome.
We've decided to digress just a tiny bit and talk about President Trump.
Not necessarily digress. We haven't really discussed it because I believe there are some deeper discussions to have. Most of the discussions
we are going to get into that.
Yeah, and most of the discussions don't happen at that deep level. It's always it's mostly superficial, and so
a lot of hasty generalization, a lot of straw man argumentation.
Yes,
and not really talking about the ideas. We're talking about what did he put on Twitter, and what a dumb idiot. He can't even spell correctly. How can you support this guy? But then I think if you take a look at the ideas driving him, one of the things I found about President Trump is if you try to listen to what he's trying to say, he's obviously not a very polished, very political speaker.
He's not. What I found is that he doesn't care if he comes across as polished,
which is a problem.
Yes,
to me that's problematic.
It is very problematic for both people who detract from him and for people who support him. It's very problematic. But if
you're trying to get to the idea behind that tweet, behind that offhanded remark, Kofive, I still say Kofive all the time. Actually, it's a fun word.
I have no idea.
Coffee. It's used as a synonym for coffee, but whatever. But I think if you try to get to that deeper level behind the tweet, behind the soundbite, behind what CNN is going ballistic over, there is actually an idea, a philosophy, if you will, driving that.
Yeah.
And when you understand that philosophy, when I comprehend the philosophy, I find it kind of scary because to me it's ultra conservative. In fact, it's beyond conservative. I find some of his remarks to hint at fascism even.
I can see that.
Which is the deeper idea here.
Yeah.
And so I want to know how Christians can support this guy who, after all of his immorality, his F-bombs and other harsh language, his history with the opposite sex and so on, all of these things, his business dealings don't appear particularly Christian or respectful.
They do not.
How can Christians support a person who, in my opinion, is just a blatant, in-your-face sinner, almost evil? But I don't want to digress to that.
No, that's fine. You can say that.
I want to get into this. Yeah. And I want to know what the Christian perspective is. Why are Christians supporting this guy?
All right. Well, let me start off with I'm really big about analogies. I feel that people it helps to understand when you bring in something that's more personal, more relatable, and say, here's this. Now, this is how this relates to that. I like bringing those analogies. So to bring in an analogy, how is it that I can have this podcast with you, an atheist, heathen sinner? How can I sit here on a radio show with you? Is that not condoning your lifestyle?
No, I don't believe that you are necessarily agreeing.
How can I support
or
you?
supporting my atheism. You are supporting me as a human being and as a friend.
When I say I'm not saying I control the show. I don't control the show.
Mm-hmm.
The resources that we're using are under, it's my computer. It's where I work. We have these things, and we together put the show together. But if I were to say it's my show, me giving you a voice for your atheism, is that not me supporting you?
Okay. Well, in a way, yeah, you're supporting our common mission.
I'm supporting a common mission, but I'm giving you, again, I'm not trying to say this is my show. I hope you're not receiving it as that way. I'm just trying to equate those two with the idea that
Give me back my show.
So if you're saying, how can you support a person like Trump to be president? And you're sitting here on a show with me, and the question would really come, how can I sit here on a show with you and support you with your beliefs and your lifestyle? Mm-hmm. Is there a greater good that you and I are trying to accomplish that can bring the two of us together, even though our lifestyles are in opposition, in radical opposition? Can the two of us come together and accomplish good, even though we have that much opposing?
Well, I think we can, but I'm not quite clear on what good President Trump is up to.
But now we're looking at it. If I believe that his platform and the things he's going to accomplish, that there are some things as a capitalist conservative pastor, that there are some things that he stands behind, which, one of them is, getting rid of abortion. That would be the pastoral side on there. There's some conservative beliefs that I have in there and some capitalist beliefs that I want him to support. So if I believe that his platform can accomplish these things, then how is that different than partnering with him to accomplish those things with the platform? How is that different than you and me partnering to accomplish something greater?
Well, one of the differences, I don't have nuclear codes.
Okay. Well,
I'm not speaking for
it's just quantities of scale.
320 million Americans. Mm-hmm. And half of the free world. I'm literally only speaking for myself. I'm not even speaking for all atheists. Mm-hmm. I want to be very clear. I have some ideas that many atheists would probably disagree with me on. Just because... One
of them probably just being on the show.
Right? Just because...
as me being on the show with you would probably bother some Christians.
Correct. And in fact, I have had Christian friends who say, oh, you're an atheist. I'm going to cut all ties with you.
Yeah.
Because for whatever reason, I'm such an existential threat to their faith that, they don't want to be friends anymore. I can't think of anything more tragic than to cut people off. Just like people who cut people off over their politics. You voted for Donald Trump. Oh, I don't want to be your friend anymore. Just delete yourself from my friends page and away you go.
This is one of the reasons why I really don't talk a whole lot about who I did or did not vote for.
It's really sad.
Yeah.
And again, that's because...
Which is kind of tough to do having a radio show.
That's because people are not engaging with ideas.
Exactly.
They're engaging with strawman arguments. They're engaging with sound bites. Mm-hmm. They're literally letting Fox News or CNN and the hysteria that both sides are whipping people up into dictate how they live their lives and who their friends are.
Yeah,
which is ridiculous to me.
And I found an easy way to get past that is that my wife and I have been married for 20 years. And since the day we got married, we don't have a television. Like, I don't inundate myself. I don't allow that stuff to inundate me all the time. It's not a constant flow. I mean, people wake up, turn on the news. They come home, they turn on the news. Mm-hmm. And whatever station you're listening to, I don't... It's one of the things that I did like that came out of Donald Trump is the whole idea of fake news, which I think most of it is on all sides.
It's heavily spun.
It's heavily spun.
News is a thing.
And saying the term fake news, I would consider anybody using straw man arguments, using hasty generality, anybody using logical fallacies in their journalism is fake news. And I don't necessarily say that they're lying and have an ulterior motive. I'm saying if they're using these illogical fallacies repeatedly, then that's fake news. It's not intellectually honest. I heard something this week. I don't know if she said it this week, but I saw it this week that Sarah Huckabee Sanders said something in a report to a reporter, and I love what she said. She basically said, if you can, at the end of the article, not determine the bias or which side that writer was on, then that's good journalism. That's actual journalism. But if
Just
you get,
the facts.
if it's just the facts and it's just a report, but at the end of the article, you're like, well, clearly this person's a conservative. Clearly this person's a liberal. Clearly this person's a leftist or on the right or whatever. If you can do that, then that's not good journalism. Journalism is not, I'm talking about not an opinion piece. Obviously, if it's an opinion piece, it's going to be an opinion. But if it's just a news article and you can just see in the news article the side that person is on, they're doing the public a disservice. They call themselves the fourth branch of the government. They're supposed to be impartial, and they're not being impartial. So, I mean, Trump calling them fake news, I don't take it as a threat to, I'm going to take away the news. I mean, I could see that could be a possibility. And I could see that, seeing the way he says that, somebody on the opposite side might say, look, he's trying to take away the news. He's trying to, remove the press and trying to, fascism and all this kind of stuff. I don't think I think he's calling out what has always been there. And I think in his pompousness and in his grandeur, he's calling it out in such a way that is dangerous in the way that he's saying it. I don't know for sure that he's not aiming to fascistly eradicate the news. I honestly don't know that I can honestly 100% say, no, that's not his intention.
So are you saying you don't support him now?
No, I'm saying I support what he's doing, but in his pompousness and in his grandeur, he's saying it in such a way that it does make me have some doubts. Well, I did not believe at first that that's where he's coming from, but when he continues moving this way, it could be something that's there. And I can't say it's 100%. I can't stand here and say, well, of course he's not a fascist and he's not going to take away the news. I don't believe he's going to, but I don't know that I can stand here and say I'm 100% sure. Honestly, I don't believe that's his intention. I think he's playing the news people for sport, which for me, honestly, I like. The news needs to be called out on their crap. The fake news needs to be called out on that kind of stuff. And I'm glad there's somebody there who's pompous enough, no matter how dumb he looks, to call them on their crap. I loved it when, like, literally the very first, like the I don't know, it was the second day of this presidency or whatever, once he came in, like they came in and whoever was who was it? There's another guy. It was before the press secretary came out and said, okay, in these news articles, you guys said this and this is wrong. And you guys reported this and this was wrong. And like literally came out. I'm like, if they're going to do that every day, that is so freaking awesome. Like, hey, we're going to call you out on your crap and make you be intellectually honest. That's the kind of stuff I support. I don't support him eliminating the press, and I don't think that's what he's trying to do, but I sure support him giving them crap because they deserve it. The press deserves it because they have not been doing their job correctly.
Well, Terry Palmquist here has commented, and she has said that she feels that President Trump has proven to be better for America than those squeaky clean Christians. She has also pointed out that he has sought the advice of Christian leaders. That is something
that seems to be happening more with this presidency than past presidencies, specifically the Obama presidency. I don't know about George W. Bush's presidency, how much, but there seems to be a lot more Christian leaders that are invited to the White House, and seems to be a lot more. I mean, I don't know if it's fake news from the right. When we read these memes of how, they're praying for him, I'd like to believe that's happening, but I don't know that that's not fake news as well.
Now, I find that troubling because for me, there's
I don't at all. I appreciate
a wall between the church and the state, and I don't necessarily want my political officials to be inviting Christian leaders in to basically advise them on key things.
But if that is happening,
they're not going to accept the advice of other experts.
But if that is happening, then isn't that a good reason for me as a Christian to support Trump? Why would you say, well, how can you support Trump? If that is actually what's happening, if there's more Christian influence happening in his presidency, that's something I should support.
Isn't our government supposed to be secular?
But our people are supposed to be holy.
So I don't have
and he's not,
issue.
And I'm not saying that he is, but if he's inviting more of that in, if it's changing his influence, if it's not changing his influence, then it's just another show. And I don't know if it's another show. I don't know if it's for real, and I don't know if it's another show. But I know that our founders believed that that a good moral compass was necessary.
Do you think
and I'm actually making an argument against myself in supporting Trump right now. I know that.
Do you think that the president has shown that he has a good moral compass?
I don't think so in his past life.
Okay,
I'm not past life, but
now. But I mean, people can be born again, right?
And again,
Christianity, right?
And that's the thing is that it looked like, and again, I don't know if it's real news. I don't know if it was a political ploy that he played along with, but I know that leading up to the election and leading up to these things, there was a lot of stuff in the Christian realm and the news and stuff like that in the Christian circles of Franklin Graham, son of Billy Graham, Franklin Graham supporting him, praying with him, having these times with it and coming out and saying this is a person who believes in God and morally speaking. He hasn't cheated on his wife since the presidency. He hasn't done these wrong business practices since there's an argument that could be made that maybe a transformation has happened in the last 2 years in his life. And now he's operating out of that transition. Everything that we point to is everything that he said in the past, everything he's done in the past, the relationships of the past, the business practices of the past. And in the last 2 years, it's possible that there has been a transformation, that is stuff that has been presented, and whether or not it is fully true or just more fake news from the right, I don't know for sure. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful and want to believe that.
Okay, so let's say we take the past off the table, if you will, and let's take a look at how he's behaving as a president. One of the things, for example, I believe the scriptures mentions I guess be kind or be friendly to the foreigner because you yourselves were once aliens in the land of Egypt.
Yeah. That was a specific command to the Israelites in their nation.
Okay, but shouldn't that also inform a president's decision? If the president is going to be a Christian, and if any of us are going to be Christians, if you're going to be a Christian, shouldn't what's written in the scriptures inform your thinking today, even though it was specific to a certain time and place in the past?
Yes, as a person, yes, it should inform you.
So look at how this president is treating immigrants and how
no. Hold on. Illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants. That's a difference.
I don't know how a human being can be labeled illegal, but mind you, how can you as a Christian support the indefinite detention of children and the separation of families? To me, this is
it happens every day when people break the law. It happens every day when people break the law. Separation happens every day. People in prison are separated from their families. That happens every day when they break the law.
How serious of a crime do you feel illegal
if you want to have a discussion about the seriousness of crime, we already did that, and we already specifically did this. But I'm telling you right now, trying to use that as how can a Christian do that? It happens every day when people break laws. They're separated from their families. Now, if you want to talk about
we also offer them bail. We offer them a speedy trial, and then we generally, we release them. And we're not breaking up the whole family. We're taking away the individual perpetrator.
Right.
We don't have literally 2-year-old defendants attending immigration hearings.
And when both parents are breaking the law, both parents are separated from the children. If mom and dad break the law, they're both sent to prison, and the children are sent to some sort of foster care.
So as a Christian, okay, I get where you're going with this, but as a Christian, which law is more important to you, God's law or the laws of the land of the United States?
God's law is for me to carry out. God's law is for me to carry out. Now, I don't have the right to kill someone. I don't have the right to execute someone. That's not my right. I have a right to defend myself, but I don't have a right to carry out the law and execute someone. That's not within my right. The Bible is very clear that governments are made to do that. That there is a separation of you as a person. God calls you as a person to be this way. Now, governments have to do things that people cannot do. Governments have to be able to do things. Governments have to be able to imprison people, to execute people if necessary, to punish people, things that I'm not allowed to do. I can't take the law into my own hands. And the Bible doesn't call us to take the law into our own hands. So I can be a Christian and believe these things, and at the same time believe that our government has a responsibility to do certain things that are outside of what I'm capable of doing as a person, and outside of what I'm called to do as a person, that there is a specific job that government is called to do. And you have to balance that. You have to understand that yes, God calls me as a person to be this way, but also But also the Bible says he did not, the governments do not carry a sword for nothing. That God has established governments to carry out his wrath against the unjust. So God has established governments, the authority of governments, to do what we as individuals he does not want us to do.
So
He calls me, if someone kills my family member, God calls me to forgive them.
Right.
But God calls the government to punish him. That's the difference.
Okay, so as a Christian then, what are you called to do for the people who are in these detention centers?
See, we as a church should be doing more in that way. Yes, I think we as a church should be going to these places and offering if you look at the foster care system, you're probably going to find the majority of the people who bring in foster kids are probably religious. I'm making an assumption there because I know so many who do. I don't know if you know very many atheists who go to foster care and bring in kids.
Some do.
But I believe the argument can be made that there is something behind Christianity and religion and religious beliefs that cause people to reach out and bring in children that are not their own, to bring them in for adoption and bring them in for foster care and stuff like that. So the church should be doing more of that. Us as individuals should be doing more than that. Literally, we just did that as an example for our daughter. We just took on, we sponsored a child from Colombia. Our church just did a whole thing with Compassion International to sponsor a whole group of kids. And we actually sponsored a little girl that's literally the same age as our daughter. And our daughter's we actually did the sponsorship in our daughter's name so that she could be the one and can learn that. And that's what we should be doing. That's what we as individuals should be doing. We should be reaching out, doing what God has called us to do. As Christians, if we believe that, we do what God's called us to do, but God has also called the government to do its job. And that's not the same job that we have. So my Christian beliefs, they guide what I'm supposed to do personally, but I also know that the government has a job. And I believe that our president understands that if he does have certain Christian beliefs, he also understands that the government has a job to do and has a job to carry out justice and enforce the laws. And if people are breaking the laws and the breaking of those laws cause separation of their family, the government has to do that. The government has to enforce the laws. Now, I know that we've talked about this before and what the details of all that's going to be a whole completely different discussion, but I don't believe the basis of the idea that you're challenging it as a Christian shouldn't be able to back up these kind of actions happening in a government, I believe is not biblically correct or even in accordance with what God has called us to do and what God has called governments to do. I believe there is that separation and God has declared that separation in the Bible.
Mm-hmm. So if we allow Donald Trump and the government to do whatever it does, how can you partition your mind to say that, this is what we should do as Christians, but it's okay for a government to do it. It's wrong for me to do this as a person, but it's okay for a government to do that. To me, there is a disconnect, if you will, a division in the brain.
But you yourself, have done that disconnect. You yourself have done it. I saw this as a reminder post, or you posted it again about something that happened like 3 years ago when somebody robbed a store next to you, and you literally chased this person down, listened to their story, paid for their stuff, and didn't press charges.
Oh, you read that. Yes, I did.
So you
let the guy go.
Exactly. Do you believe it's the responsibility of governments to always let everyone go, or do you believe there is a responsibility of the government that there are times when they should prosecute, or do you think that the government should always let everybody go like you did?
Well, of course, the government should prosecute.
Okay, well that's the division you're talking. That's the division. You know what's right. And if you were that person that was wronged and you had compassion on that person, you would reach out for them, even if they wronged you, but you don't believe that they should not go to prison for it. You don't believe that everyone who does that act should be abolished from going to prison or being punished at all. You don't believe that.
But where's the compassion on the part of our government that's breaking up families?
Again, you're going on a very specific thing and you're getting us off topic. We've already discussed that. I believe that I have sufficiently presented the idea that there is a division. That there is a division that's allowed. You're asking me about, the difference between how can a Christian believe this? I believe that there's a division. I believe you agree that there's a division. Right now, you're just trying to argue about where is that degree, and that's a completely different discussion than what we're doing today. Okay. That's a different discussion. Do you believe that I've sufficiently answered that you can have a belief for yourself and a belief for what the government should do? What you should do, what I should do as a Christian, and what the government should do.
I still disagree that Christians should support a president who supports the breakup of families and the indefinite imprisonment of people, including children, personally.
Okay.
But that's that.
Okay.
Okay? So what about things that President Trump is doing? For example, he's going around, he's praising people like Kim Jong-un. He is,
In what way? Quote it.
Well, I don't have a specific quote.
Then again, so now you're presenting a straw man argument, and you're saying, I heard it said this. I heard he said this. I don't have any evidence, but I heard he said this. And you're calling it he's praising, but you don't even know what he said. This is exactly what the news is doing. Mm-hmm. It's a straw man argument. Can you make the quote?
What about, well, I imagine I can research it, yes.
Fine. I would love for you to find it, because I would love to find out what was called praising Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un, sorry.
Okay, well, that's why we have
That's why we have the internet right there, and we have the iPads here.
Okay, so in the UK news, this isn't even American fake news.
Oh, yeah, because they're much better.
Trump praises Kim Jong-un as terrific and pledges to hold second summit. Okay, so the date on that article
Right, no, what's the quote? They have one word, terrific, quoted.
Very open and terrific is the quotation. Donald Trump, the U.S. president, has praised Kim Jong-un for being very open and terrific. Very open and terrific is the direct quote.
Okay, very open about what? Very open and terrific about what? What is the context of that? Do they even print the context? Do they even have his full quote in that article, this wonderful BBC News from Europe? Do they even include the entire quote from Trump? Or is it just those three words? This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And you bought into it. You bought into it. This is exactly what I thought. This is fake news.
But this guy is the most anti-Christian guy on the planet. There is no more dangerous place in the world for a Christian than North Korea. Mm-hmm. Virtually 100% of all Christians end up in
I understand that. And if that person is making,
who is supposed to be a Christian,
but again, you're making an argument about
hands with the person who's imprisoning all of these Christians in concentration camps.
Yeah, he's shaking his hand.
How can you support this?
I can support the idea that if he can negotiate with this person to change their policies, that's a good thing. If he can negotiate with this person and that ends in the result of that person changing the policies of their government, that's a good thing. And if that person were to come, I don't know what the quote is. I don't know. You don't know what the quote is, but what if the quote could have been about, hey, it was terrific. And, it was terrific in this, that he came to the table and had this discussion, and they just pulled, he's terrific. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't it be a terrific thing that he came to the discussion and there's a possibility that now policies can change in North Korea because of these discussions? Isn't shaking his hand worth starting a communication? Isn't me shaking my hand with you and inviting you to my home worth the possibility that it may change who you are? And it may change who's watching?
But so far we haven't seen that. We don't even know.
Oh my gosh, it needs to be an instant result. Yeah.
Well, it should be a better result than what we seem to have got from North Korea. Certainly, there are no Christians that have been released. Again, I'm going to say that. Yeah, he's released a couple of American missionaries.
Yeah, so there was a result. So I'll say this: I certainly like the way he did it better than the way the other presidents haven't. He brought them to the table and got some results, and there is a future possibility of more results. That's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. That's a bad thing. I mean, again, most of the arguments against Trump are these kind of things, pulling one word out of a quote, leaving out the context and saying, look, Trump believes this. It's all straw man. It's all straw man. It's all fake news.
Okay, so today President Trump pitched starting his own news network.
Oh my gosh.
A state-run news network.
If that is true, that is dangerous.
Okay. So,
if that is true, where's the quote?
Okay, so let's see here. This is new news from today. It says, while CNN doesn't do great in the United States based on ratings, outside of the U.S. they have very little competition. Throughout the world, CNN has a powerful voice portraying the United States in an unfair and false way. Something has to be done, including the possibility of the United States starting our own worldwide network to show the world the way we really are. Great. These are two tweets from Trump back to back, so one thought from him.
Okay.
So now the United States, we used to have Radio Free America.
I would like to know what the United States is, like in that context. Is he talking a global? Is he literally saying a state-funded?
He says the possibility of the United States starting our own worldwide network.
If he's meaning an actual state-funded and state-run news, that's dangerous.
Okay, so you don't support that.
I don't support that, but I don't believe that's what he said. I don't believe there's enough evidence in that quote to say he wants to start a state-funded and state-operated news network.
So do you support a president then who can say anything he wants on Twitter and, it could have international ramifications, but
Maybe.
you're okay with this?
Maybe. Because it's shaking up everything. And I think everything needs to be shaken up.
But at what cost? I mean, what if something like this starts a conflict or a trade war? We're in the middle of a trade war with China. Now we're getting away from the whole Christian side.
Right.
This is just how can anyone as an American support a president who's frankly up to a bunch of antics?
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of us liberals complain about how much golf he plays. Personally, I think we should buy him a new set of golf clubs. I want him to play more golf because the more golf he's playing, the less trouble he's creating for the rest of us. In my opinion, as a liberal,
Right. Okay. Yeah. Take that.
But I don't know. It just seems to me, certainly a lot of the things in his past are at odds with Christianity, but you kind of addressed that by saying that maybe
if we see those things coming up now, I think that would be more evidence. But at the same time, even if there was a big grand conversion 2 years ago, I mean, I'm not of the idea that as soon as someone is converted, they immediately lose all their bad habits. God takes time to work things out of people and work, if it's language, if it's this, if it's that, and people who find God are not instantly saints and don't instantly act like saints all the time. So there is that possibility. Again, if there was a really big conversion, like it was talked about, if there was a thing that happened with Franklin Graham and all that, I don't know that I've seen evidence now since then that would say that he just did that for show.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I also don't expect someone who just found, who may have just found Christ or just made a rededication in their life to suddenly stop all their bad habits. That's something that's going to work out in them over time. I don't know if someone raises their hand in our church and to find Christ, and then the next weekend they come in and they cuss, we're not going to be like, oh, wait a minute, you're a Christian. You weren't supposed to. No, you know what I mean? Like this person has years of bad habits that they got to work out, and God's going to work it out in their time, and God's going to work it out differently with each person. There's going to be certain ththings. There were things that my dad had to, my dad was always like, God is dealing with this in my life, and it's a never ending thing. My dad was an amazing Christian who I know heard God and better than anybody I ever knew, but he was constantly saying, it's never over. He said, every time I get past this thing and God gets me past this, he opens my eyes and says, well, now here's this thing you need to work on. It's like, oh, well, I've been doing that all my life. And God's like, yeah, and it's been bothering me all my life, but now I'm going to have you deal with it. It just takes time to, again, what we call that in the Christian church, we call that working out our salvation. We don't earn our salvation, but then we work out our sanctification. We work out our sanctification after the fact. We try to follow what God does because we love him and want to do what he wants us to do. It takes us time to learn how to do that. We're not doing that to earn his love. We know we're already loved, but now we want to reciprocate that love and do what he calls us to do. And as we learn those things, we realize there's so much that we've been doing that's been wrong. So many things that we've been missing, so many ways that we've been sinning. And as we deal with those things, then the next thing reveals the next thing. And it's always going to be something different. Somebody might have a struggle with this that somebody else doesn't have a struggle with. So in that context, if there was a conversion, if there was something that happened, if there was a rededication or something like that in his life, I would expect there to be not an instant change, but I would expect there to be a gradual change.
Are you at all concerned with the possibility that the president could be playing Christians just for their support?
Absolutely. That's always a concern. Yes. Mm-hmm. That's an absolute possibility that I don't, wash away. Politicians are politicians. Now, I wanted him in because I felt that he wasn't a politician like other politicians. I don't feel that he really cared all that much about how many people supported him. It really seems obvious that he doesn't really care to be politically correct just to win people's opinions. Like, it seems pretty clear to me that he is just who he is, and he just does whatever it is he does. and there's nothing politically correct at all about him. So I don't believe that this is a charade that's going on, because it just seems that his personality is one that he just is who he is, and this is what you get. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. If you do like it, you do like it. I wanted somebody in the presidency that was going to shake up Washington, shake up everything, just turn it, because everything there was a mess. Unfortunately, I don't think that he has done that as much as I had hoped. Honestly, I don't think that. I think there has still been the cronyism and the, bringing his own people on, backdoor, deals, and it didn't pan out the way I had hoped. I really wanted somebody to shake up the system. And it seems the only thing that he's shaken up, which is still good. I think the only thing he's shaken up is the mainstream media.
Well, what happens next? I mean, are you going to wait to see who runs against him, or? I'm
always going to vote for the platform. Mm-hmm. I'm going to vote for
pro-life.
What the things that they are claiming, because you can believe them as much as they can. If I don't believe that they're really true and aiming for that, I'm not going to vote for them. But if they are standing out there and claiming this is what I'm going to fight for, this is what I'm going to stand for. I mean, literally, it was like, hey. Yes, this was a possibility to make the Supreme Court more conservative, and that has happened. Mm-hmm. That has happened, and has the possibility to happen again if he has another term. I mean, I don't know that Ginsburg can go another 6 years, mm-hmm. and that's a possibility.
Or any of the other justices could fall out for any reason.
Right, but I'm just saying, mm-hmm. Just for health wise, that seems to be the obvious one that
right.
would probably step down next. That's probably holding out. But again. I'm not necessarily a Trump supporter. I'm a conservative Christian. I'm a conservative, and I'm going to vote for the policies of the person. I don't care if it's a woman. I don't care if they're black. I honestly don't care if they're gay. You know what I mean? It's just not likely going to be gay, but I don't care as much about who the person is, more than can they accomplish, do I believe that they're going to try to accomplish the platform that they're standing for? Mm-hmm. And if if this person has a better chance of accomplishing that, then I'm going to vote for that person to accomplish that goal.
So you feel that the conservative platform is more consistent with Christian ethics than perhaps the liberal platform?
I do believe so, yes.
Even though there's more issues besides abortion, right? There's issues of economic justice. And again, we've gone back and forth many times how I believe that nobody should be hungry or
But again,
homeless.
that's my separation, is I believe economic justice is a personal thing that we should be handling personally through charity. Mm-hmm. That out of the goodness of our hearts, that when the government takes over doing that, the government becomes the owner. And I don't believe that is godly in any way. I don't believe that taking away the ability for people, taking away the incentive, taking away charity is not godly. Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's our heart.
We literally had that episode, a week ago?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago.
Charity should be abolished in favor of justice. That's my position.
Yeah.
But all right.
Yeah. Hey, this has been our first Monday episode. I know that you guys, some of you might be tuning in early. The Denise Gary Show is coming up next at 5 o'clock. Here on Kerncast. We will be here every Monday now, as well as every Sunday. So every Monday at 4 o'clock, every Sunday at 5 o'clock. And then we'll see, if that grows or what happens. But if you like what you hear, keep the conversation going online. Find us on Facebook, A Valid Answer. You can find all of our podcasts. They're posted within a week or so. You can find all of our podcasts on iTunes Podcasts. You can also find them on YouTube. Just search YouTube for A Valid Answer. We're on there. And we're looking forward to your guys' discussion. We're looking forward to your guys' involvement, and we're really excited about this platform. And just not only starting this conversation with you, but also carrying on this conversation together in front of the whole world. Share it with your friends. More of this needs to be happening. More people need to be facing one-on-one, getting past all the crap, getting past all the lies and the logical fallacies and all that, and getting down to the issues and discussing what's real. So I'm Scott. I am the capitalist conservative pastor.
And I'm Marshall, the socialist liberal atheist.
And this is A Valid Answer. See you guys later.
Thank you.